All right, my friends, this is Unit 1, Part 2. This is on systems of government. And systems refers to where is the power within the government, where does it lie? And we're going to go through three types of systems. One is called unitary. Uni means one, and that's where all power lies within one level of government. We'll talk about a federal system and a confederation or confederal system. So those are the three systems of government. This is different than types. Types is going to be what type of government will be like dictatorship, democracy, and so forth. So that's going to be a separate one. So again, systems is all about where is the government power located, what level. And it's going to be like national level, state level, local level. So that's what we're talking about here. And the first one's a unitary system. So a good definition for unitary system is all power to make laws, to enforce the laws, to decide the laws. All power is going to be given to that single level of national or federal government. The reminder here is one. Uni means one, unicycle, uniform, uniform. Okay, so that one level is going to be the national, federal level of government. So any kind of laws that are going to be made, for a license, if you want a driver's license, if you want a license to be an electrician, if you want laws to keep order, any kind of stuff. They're going to be set up by the national government. Okay, so here in the United States, that's not the way it is. States make a lot of laws, but with a unitary system, and a lot of countries have a unitary system, there's going to be laws that are defined that apply to the entire nation. Okay, so an example of unitary countries, a lot of European countries are unitary systems. So here in France or Spain, for example, or England, Ireland, the laws that are made are primarily made by the national government and are going to be the same throughout the entire country. That's not to say they don't have local governments, because local governments are going to decide certain things. But for the most part, 90% of the power is located with that national level of government. Dictatorships tend to be unitary. Dictatorship is where one leader is in total control. They usually use force to maintain control, sometimes to take control. Communist countries are going to be unitary. Here's China here, they're a unitary country. But again, for a lot of smaller countries, it's a system that works for a lot of smaller countries because of the size of the countries, it's easy to kind of enforce that national law. The bigger the country is, the more they're going to tend to allow different states to make decisions. So if I were to show an example here, here's government power. Almost all of it goes towards the national government. So it doesn't matter where you are in the country, the laws are going to be the same for the most part. Here in the United States, you can go from state to state, and each, different laws per state. For example, laws regarding what's it take to become a teacher, like a teacher license. There could be a different test in every state that you have to take. When I came from Virginia to Maryland and had to renew my teaching license, I had to apply for a new Maryland one and take new tests to get it. But with a unitary government, with a unitary system, there might be a national test that all teachers will take, and you can go anywhere within the country. So all power located with that national government. Okay. Confederacy, this is the bottom one on the chart that I give out in class, so we'd actually skip over. But a confederacy is where the national government is very incredibly weak or non-existent at all. So you have this loose union of independent states, and every state within the country would make their own laws, but there's not a unifying national government. Or if there is, that national government or central government, it says here, would be so weak that they'd have almost no power. The United States under the Articles of Confederation was an example of this. Every state had a different set of laws, and the national government, though it did exist, it was so weak that when they tried to tax all the states and tax the citizens of the states, there was no way to enforce it. So with the confederacy, or confederal, you'll see it sometimes, or confederation, every state, it's up to them how they run their own affairs. It's up to them which laws they make, and that central government is very weak. It's not unified the country. And I said the location of power here is in the states. Example, again, the United States under the Articles of Confederation. The Confederacy during the Civil War would be an example. If you're familiar with the Civil War from 8th grade, with the Civil War, every state in the South basically had their own set of powers, their own jurisdiction to make laws within their own state, with a very weak national government. Now, the European Union, if I go back here, is the collection of European countries. So it's not really a country in itself, but it's a collection of these countries, and all those countries decide for themselves what to do. So the European Union is kind of like a confederacy, but really there aren't really many of these in the world today. There have been a couple in the past, but this is not a common one. There's that European Union I was talking about, but again, that's not really a country as much as a collection of countries. And again, this graphic here, all power is going to the state government so they can make their own set of laws and rules. And finally, you have the federal system, where power is actually divided between national and state governments. And this is what we have in the United States, and a lot of bigger countries have this. So think about shared power. Here in the United States, you're going to have national laws that everyone has to abide by. It doesn't matter what state you're in, you have to abide by it. But every state is going to have their own set of laws. So think about like hunting laws, for instance. Laws for hunting are going to be different in Maryland and California. Marriage, and again, I mentioned licensing, what it takes to get your electrician's license or your teaching license or whatever else. That's decided by the states. And most laws are going to be decided by the states over national government, but there are national laws to follow too. So that's the idea of a federal system, federalism. National government makes some, state government makes some. So here's a power, and notice how it's divided. Some things are decided by national governments, such as immigration policy, foreign policy with other nations. Some things are decided by states, such as licensing laws. Any kind of license you apply for is going to be a state thing. How school districts are going to be set up, that's a state thing. What's going to be learned within the school, that's up to states to decide. So in Maryland, the state curriculums are created by the states. And if you go to a different state, you might learn things in a different order. Some things are going to go to both, such as which one can tax. When you guys are working jobs, who's going to tax you? Well, that's where both of them come in, the national and state government, for instance. So a lot of bigger countries in the world, look at the size of these compared to the unitary ones. Now, a lot of bigger countries are going to use that federal system, and it allows them to split up the work. Here's your unifying laws, national laws, but then the states have their own jurisdiction to make their own. Examples of countries with unitary and federal systems listed here. There's the United States, federal. There's Canada, Mexico, Australia, India, and some unitary systems, again, mainly in Europe here. Japan's in there. So look at the cookies here. Which one represents each system? You get sugar cookies, chocolate chips, and then chocolate chip cookies. So let's take a look at this to close things out, okay? Sugar cookie. All powers within that one realm. That's going to be like a unitary system. All power in one location. Chocolate chips, power spread out. That's going to be like a confederation where the power is spread out and every entity is its own, has its own jurisdiction. And then finally, chocolate chip. This is where they kind of work together in a federal system. All right, that's going to close out this one, and I'll see you for the next one.